In this video, I'm going to show you how to set up the sound system. Mine is already set up because you don't need to see me unwind any cords. But now that it's set up, I'll just explain where everything is, what settings everything should be on, and it'll be very clear because I have no backside bleachers. I don't have to hide my wires, which you will have to do at 99% of shows for safety purposes, obviously. But everything will be nice laid out and open so you can see how everything is set up. So normally, when you set up bleachers, back bleachers are out. And when you do that, since no ADA accessible seating will be needed on the back sideline, you're going to put them in those ADA cutouts. Those are spots for wheelchairs. Here we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That's an even number. We have an odd number of speakers though. So here, subwoofer, since it's centered, but it makes more sense to put it in one of these cutouts, just pick one. It doesn't matter if it's right or left. And then on the next two out from there will be the actual speakers, not the subwoofer. And then obviously you don't want them on the far extremes of the gym. So the subwoofer, just pick one on either side, and then the two speakers will go on the next two out of there. Sometimes you'll have one of these wheelchair cutouts right in the dead center. That would be the best. But you don't always get that. You just gotta be flexible. And like I said, speaker, just pick a side. It's centered enough. Sometimes you won't have we have a huge safety zone in today's show. Sometimes the safety zone goes into the bleachers. In those cases, you do have to put the subwoofer into the bleachers. Otherwise it'll be on the performance floor. Fortunately, those bleacher rows, the first couple, will be blocked off. And you can just kind of lean it back into the bench. And here's a picture of it. And that will actually be pretty safe throughout the weekend. And if it is that tight of a squeeze, the speakers will be on the far extremes because we cannot put those tripods for our speakers any closer to the inside. They will be on the edges of the bleachers because we do need that. Worst case scenario, we'll put them up into the bleachers just like the subwoofer, but we will try to avoid that. See here, there's actually only 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Those are those railings. But as you see, there's no opening in the center. So if these bleachers were actually out, I would put the subwoofer right there, speaker right there, and speaker right over there where that I say yes sign is.
So now it's time to set up the actual speakers. Everyone should have a tripod bag for the speakers. These are obviously way bigger than the camera tripods. Mine are Gator Frameworks. Some of them are OnStage brand. You should have 2 of each. I have one of the Gator ones. Mine has 2 separate zippers. The OnStage one has just one big zipper pouch. And these are the big tripods. You pull it out. Sometimes you might have to loosen that knob, and there we go. You want it nice and wide. There's no exact science to the base, but you certainly don't want it here. This is too narrow. You want a nice, comfortable, wide base and tighten it down. It's super flexible, so you can adjust it as necessary. The top pole has holes in it with this safety pin. All our speaker tripods have this safety pin. You loosen that knob and you pull it to your desired height. I try not to make it too tall. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'll do 6. It depends on the venue. We'll see what 6 holes look like height-wise. I'm gonna do that. I'm 6'1". It comes to my chin, and this helps also in setup and tear down because you don't want the speaker too tall and have to go get help from someone my size to set them up or tear them down. This is fine. You can certainly go taller. Just make sure you have the base nice and wide. Now, when you put the pin in, you still want to make sure you tighten down the secondary knob. Before you actually put the speakers on, excuse me, we'll leave that blooper in. Sorry about that microphone. You're going to want to set up the other tripod so it matches, because the bottom is a lot more flexible since there's no pre-drilled holes. So how I do that is I try to get parallel with one side, and then I try to get it even with the other leg. And that's close enough. It won't be an exact science, but it's close enough. And how many holes did I say? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. And that is about the same. One last thing about adjusting these tripods, you don't want it in the way of the knob. You want it perpendicular to the knob. And all our tripods should have these little straps to where you don't lose the pins. And now we're actually going to put a speaker on top. Fortunately, all our speakers are a little lighter than some of our older models. So the average person should be able to, but if you are not confident about lifting a speaker this tall, please get help. Please, please, please get help. These speakers do cost close to $1,000, if not more. You don't want to be on the hook for that. So that's exactly where I wanted a tripod. I like to put the one leg out, up to you. Again, not that part's not an exact science, because if this was against bleachers, if anything, it's going to go backwards and go that way. But if something like that happens, that's just crazy. So at this point, lift it. Here's a hole. It's not threaded, so all you have to do is slide it on. I also don't like to lift it too high, so I can tilt it nice and easy. Otherwise, it's just more difficult. I point it parallel to the front bleachers. These aren't even boxes, so this would be if it was used as a monitor. Don't worry about that. More so, use this flat side, and it's as close as I can to a straight line down the front.
Everyone has this Behringer Xenix 1204 USB. You only need to plug in 3 things on the inputs. Your microphone, I put it on channel 1. You can do 2, 3, or 4, but I like to keep it as far away from the 2 music channels, which will be 5/6 and 7/8. You should have a 5-foot XLR cable that runs to your microphone. Everyone has this boom mic stand, that way it's out of your way. Most everyone has this Sennheiser E845S microphone. Make sure that switch is on. You can use the on-off switch. I prefer, when I'm not speaking, to use this mute button. If you unmute it, test, 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 1, 2, 3. Test, test, test. See the difference? Because if you use the switch, it'll pop, and that's less than ideal, but not the biggest deal if you choose to go that route. Excuse me. Now, these Y cables that are the 1/4-inch jack to the headphone jack. Mine are a little different than everyone else's. Y'all's will be all red or all black. R should be red, L should be black. These level buttons should be depressed. These low cut buttons should be depressed. Only channels 1 through 4 have a gain. I have mine to about 10, 11 o'clock. Don't worry about the compressors. I don't mess with any other settings on those, but when mixing the music, I do mess with high, mid, and low in case the high notes are too high, low notes are too low. Your main mix is obviously everything. I keep it about there, microphone about there, music here too. You can always turn it up just a bit, and if you need a little more, go here, move those at the same time. But that way I do just my laptop, just a director's phone, or just my mic. And that's the mixing board, except for the back end. That's the power cord. All those cords are identical to the speaker cord. You only need to turn the power on. We don't use phantom. If you accidentally turn it on, nothing bad will happen, but you can keep that off. And then your two main outputs. These will go straight to the subwoofer, and I'll show you how to do that next. As I walk over to the subwoofers, I will show you I'm just plugged into a power strip for the mixer. My laptop will be there too, and then just an extension cord to wall power way over there. So these two cords, we're going to follow them all the way to the subwoofer. I've got them nice and separate. I had to use 100-foot cables because my 50-foots weren't quite long enough. And those will go into input 1 and 2. Mine are numbered instead of lettered. So obviously left channel will go into left if yours are lettered like the Yamaha or QSCs. I put left on input 1 here, and then right on input 2, and then obviously those will correspond here. So output 1 to the left, output 2 to the right. And that is from the audience perspective, and I'll clarify that a little later in this video. On-off switch, power cable, I've got that plugged in here, and I'll show you the detailed power setup I have. You can do whatever you need, and I'll explain that a little further. On these Electro Voices, settings can't be changed unless it's powered on, because to change settings you have to press this button and then you can adjust things. Mode should be on music though. Location is normal. And low pass should be on 120 Hertz. The default on this speaker should be, on the subwoofer rather, is 100 Hertz, which is fine, but if you can bump it up to 120, that will help. So exit that. Level should be at 0 dB, not up or down, 0 dB. So, let me show you one of the speakers. It looks almost identical. On-off switch, power cable, and input 1 and 2. I always use input 1. You can use input 2, no big deal if you do. The Yamaha, you can only use input 1 because there is no other XLR input. These should be at 0 as well. That should be at 0 as well. And the settings are the same here. You press the button. Mode should be on music. Location, tripod, sub 120 Hertz. Every other speaker does have manual switches, and the info for those is below. And those can be adjusted on accident because they're not like this where it has to be on before I can even mess with any settings. Now I will show you my power setup. I've got an outlet over here running straight to this first speaker. Then I've got this little triple outlet, one cable to the speaker, and then another extension cord to take me to the subwoofer. Another little triple outlet where the subwoofer is plugged in, and an orange extension cord going to my last speaker. So all three speakers are plugged into daisy chained to the same original extension cord and power outlet, and that's fine. These speakers don't hog power like a microwave or something, so I've never had any problems with it popping. I am going to point out over here though, this is only powering my mixer and my laptop, but here's one more extension cord that I'm showing you because we have to provide front and backside power at all events, color guard and percussion. So this is running to the backside 50, and no one's going to use that except for performing units if they need it. And it has to be at every show per the rule book, regardless of if anyone uses it or not. So to show you the broad setup again at this event, I'm on the left side from the audience perspective. That's the left side speaker from the audience perspective. the subwoofer, dead center, and then the right speaker from the audience perspective. That's how it should be in the ideal situation. Sometimes the subwoofer will be off center, and I'll explain more of that now. Front side power at this gym is a little tricky, and I'm going to explain why. This is going to be my front side power, and as you can see, it's way over here to the side. The reason I did that is for safety purposes, because our performer entrance is back here. It's a horizontal timeline. They'll come perform, and then our performer exit is over there. So if I left that cord on the front side 50, it would pass in front of this double door and that double door, which is our performer exit. That's just not safe. Not to mention I would have to run it all in front of the bleachers, causing a tripping hazard. There is no power here on this wall on this side of the door. I can't reach anything. Under ideal circumstances, some bleachers will have outlets right on the 50, right at the base of the bleachers, like on this wooden section, or close enough to the 50, and that's your ideal scenario. This gym also has outlets on the top row, but that would also be an unsafe scenario because I would have to run power all the way from the top to the bottom, causing tripping hazards. But what that does help me on is providing power to the camera, which I will address now. You can just see it there. That yellow extension cord is just running to this corner where you see my coiled up extension cord. And it's on the same wall as my announcer's table. That will give me the shortest distance for my Wi-Fi controller, which is my tablet. Because if I was in that back corner, there's no way I would keep connectivity throughout the day. Upside about most of our extension cords are they have the lit tip on the female end. So if the tip is not lit, then there's something wrong with that outlet and you need to find a new outlet. So to go over it one last time, there's the sound table. Plug in the mixer to a power strip or directly to an extension cord. The two main outputs on the rear run to the subwoofer, and then from the subwoofer we go to speaker right and speaker left. So now that everything is set up, everything is on, all you need to do is test everything. So my mixer's on, and as I pointed out, those mute lights are illuminated when it's muted. They turn off when the mute's off. Test, check 1, 2, 3, testing 1, 2, 3. Channel 1 sounds great. Then I'll unmute channel 7, 8. And it's up to you. If you want to use 5, 6, that's fine. If you want to put your mixer on the right side, that's fine. I'm right-handed, but I like it on the left because I type with I like the computer since I'll be doing more things there with my dominant hand. Up to you. Now I will open iTunes to test one last thing, which is the stereo test. Give me just a moment. So everyone should have this stereo test song. It's not a song, it just plays audio isolated on the left channel, then the right channel, then both channels, and you'll hear it say that. So listen to that.
Left channel, right channel, both channels, left channel.
And I have it correct.
Both channels.
Because it's saying left channel
both channels
on audience perspective left speaker. That's the right. Left, right. And then it'll go both. So
That's how you confirm that everything is set up correctly. Now, if you mess up these cables on the board, if you mess up these cables on the board, the red and the black, remember, R should go with red, R red, simple enough. If you do them backwards and left wasn't coming out of left and right wasn't coming out of right, you can do it there, or you can swap out the main outputs and then retest it, and left should come out of left, right should come out of right. That way you don't have to do everything. If you just switch one of the things, then everything will be remedied. At events where we use the bigger, better flow marching cameras, everyone should also have these XLR splitters. And these will plug in back here at the main outputs. So that'll just plug in like that, and then this cable will go here instead of straight into the back, and Flow should have cables to be able to plug in. But that's only on their more advanced setup. If we use their more common setup in the early season, which is a cell phone, then we won't need these Y splitters, but just hang on to them. I keep them in the mixer bag along with all the power cables for the speakers, the Y stereo cables that have the headphone jack, the short microphone XLR cable, and I think that about covers it. So I hope showing you this will answer any questions you have, including that curveball about the front side power. Again, if you have any questions, feel free to reach out, sound@texascolorguardcircuit.org.